Good morning, Westeros!
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle. And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners, and we got Sam 5 on deck. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Great.
All right.
Pretty good, man. I like where this is going. The problem is, like, we're running out of real estate, right? Like,
I mean, we got 2 more books.
I know. Thankfully, we don't have to wait. I guess that's what I'm getting at, right? Is if we had to wait, this would be a bummer.
Well, things slow way down, I'll tell you that, just because of, like, how the next 2 books are, right? Like, just because there's the character POVs are split.
Yeah.
Every time you start a book, you always get a little bit of intro, right? Like, even Harry Potter.
Well, he's saying they're also because it's half the characters.
Sure. Yeah. But, like, just think back to, like, reading Harry Potter. Like, the first chapter is always like, well, yeah, Harry Potter was an orphan who was living with his aunt and uncle on Private Drive. And, like, all right, we're in book 5. Like, we got this. We got it.
Privet Drive.
Sorry. Private Drive in my household.
Yeah, so give this a synopsis, Kyle. Also, we will say for the fans, well, I didn't ask you guys. We were saying, we were considering it. We never said for sure. Are we good to do 2 tonight? I guess we can play it by ear.
Yeah, we're rolling.
The plan is to do 2 tonight like we did the last time.
With Sam and John, so we're going to try.
I think we're going to be able to roll through it. I got notes, but it's a lot of bullshit.
And you
it's
saw,
a lot of talking.
You saw who the next one is too, Kyle, right? Because it's kind of cool that
it's John, right?
Yeah, back to back. It was Sam, John, Tyrion, Sam, John.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So this one was pretty good. The synopsis is right, like Sam, all the potential commanders get called up to Stannis. Sounds like who's there.
Yep.
And he pretty much just tells them like, look, you guys gotta get your fucking shit together. Like, we ain't got time for this.
More like, I don't have time for this. You guys might have time, but I got shit to do.
Well, kinda, but it's like we got a war going on here. And then he tells them that he needs stuff from them, the gift and all the empty castles, which is a pretty sweet deal, I think. Like, I don't like. Nobody's using that shit. Like, I think they even say that at some point. Like, I guess it's not a big deal because...
I guess it's just property. Like, who owns what? Like, are you willing to give it? If you give it away, you'll never really get it back.
They don't know that it's for the wildlings yet. Exactly. So they're not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Is like, yeah, it's like, okay, great idea, except Stannis is like... They even say at one point, like, where are you going to get men for this? He's like, don't worry about it. But yeah, he kind of mentioned that to John last time. That's his plan.
Oh, so he's gonna? You think okay? That makes sense. That he'd man the castles even with the wildlings, like the ones he trusts,
or at least a gift, right? That's what he said to John.
Yeah. The gift makes sense. Like, yeah.
And then
that
maybe
I knew.
Maybe put his own men, right? So I think,
yeah.
I'm kind of jumping. We'll get into specifics. I can get to some of these specifics later.
And then Sam's like, oh fuck, we need somebody tonight, right? So then he's like, okay, I gotta go do my plan that I talked about at the end of the last one, which is tell Malister or Cotter Pike to vote for the other one. I think of the 2 dudes.
That's the attempt. Yep.
Yeah. And then essentially just says, nah, 3rd dude, vote for John.
Yeah. John comes back at the very end.
And then chapter ends.
And chapter. Yep, exactly.
All right, let's just jump in. Good synopsis. We'll get into a little bit more detail. So, as Kyle said, Sam is in a meeting with Stannis, all the guys that have been voted so far for Lord Commander, and then Melisandre is there as well, because she can't go nowhere without Stannis.
Yep. And Sam is there because he is assistant to Aemon, who isn't being voted for, but he's the maester, so he's also there. Yep.
Yeah, he's just always around.
List of people, just as a refresher: Dennis Malister, Cotter Pike, Janos Slynt, Othel Yarwick, Three Finger Hob, and Dolores Ed.
Yep. He mentions that Melisandre takes an interest in him. I mean, she's just kind of looking at him.
Yeah.
But all right, Sam, if she's checking you out, like, I believe you.
Well, it's probably
she said something about Sam the Slayer too at some point.
Exactly, he's the one that did the one with the others, right?
Like, she knows that he has experience. Yeah,
she's focused on the others. He's the one that's actually killed one. Yeah. The other thing I did forget to say, maybe you said it, Jeff. Bowen Marsh is also there. He actually resigned. Remember in the last hand chapter.
But he's the Castleton right now.
But yeah, he's the Lord Steward, and yeah, exactly, he's the one in charge. So interim.
Yeah. So they're all kneeling before Stannis, and then like he made them kneel for a long time, but once they get up, our boy Janos is the first one to brown nose.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so happy to be in trouble, Stannis.
Congrats on your victory.
When we saw you out there, we knew everything was better, right?
Yep.
And once we saw you showed up, that's a man who doesn't forget his duty. He's the shit.
The Stingers are going to make much of it, and Stannis, being Stannis, the Stingers can do what they like. Stop brown-nosing Janos. Pretty much just calls him on it right away.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, man. I know who you are.
I love that Stannis called him out for it. And like, finally somebody like called him out in front of like all the brothers, that like the brothers were like, all right, maybe this guy is a shitty person. Like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Like, if you voted for him, you're crazy.
Yeah, because in terms of like respectful people, like like highborn people, there's really not that many. Like Alistair is kind of like relatively up there just in terms of like who else is there. Malister, again, just because these are like actual like houses. Malister's probably the highest.
Big name people.
Yeah, so just Janos Lynch showing up with all these like accolades. Like again, we hate him, but a lot of these brothers who don't know him, he's got a good resume.
Yeah. Well, until the resume kind of gets shed light on here, maybe not this brown nosing moment, but later on when he like really goes into kind of like how he made his bones.
Oh yeah, Stannis lights him up. Oh yeah.
Which I just loved every minute of it. So basically we're here because Stannis is mad that the vote's taking too long. He's got plans. I got decisions to make. Like, I need you to help me with my decisions. Like, let's get it going.
He's like, I have decisions that involve the Watch, so I need somebody that can make a fucking decision. Yeah. So you guys need to make a decision on who that is.
Yep. Slint's basically like, all right, like, you choose. You pick the best guy to lead us. And he's like, no.
It's obviously me.
Yeah. Pike asks Janos if he wants Stannis to wipe their asses for him. Malister's like, it's up to us to choose. Dolores Ed says, if they're wise, they won't choose me. And Aemon says, yeah, the Watch has chosen their own commander since Bran the Builder raised the wall. Jorah Mormont was the 997th Lord Commander. Do we know this? Kind of a big number.
It's a lot. It was a big number.
Yeah. I
was kind of shocked when I reread it.
Yeah.
I mean, just doing some quick math, how long do you think? Say the average commander reigns 10 years. That's probably a decent, right?
How old is Westeros, like, as the Seventh Kingdom? Or, like, how old is the Wall, I guess?
300 since the Seventh, like, the Targaryens came and took over. The Wall, we don't know. I think they, like, estimate the Long Night. Again, it's really, like, up in the air. All guesses is about 8,000 is the Long Night, I think, is when they think the Wall was made. I guess that makes sense. If it's about 8,000 years old, at least the Wall is, if that's what we think. And we've had almost 1,000 Lord Commanders. Each Lord Commander reigned for 8 years.
You get about
8,000, right? I think 8 years is a pretty decent. Like, you might have some where it's like bang, 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 5 dead in a year, but then some of them reign for 20, right? So
yeah, that's fine. Stannis, this is where Stannis kind of goes off on Slint, right? Or he's like, yo, if you want me to pick you, like, at least grab your balls and like tell me you want me to pick you. Like, enough of this, like, using your words.
And also, no fucking shot. That's my favorite part, though. It's like, and then when you do ask, no, go fuck yourself. He said he had half the officers in the City Watch paying him. Yeah. Like, he promoted based on pay. Like, he's a piece of shit. I was there. I watched it.
Oh yeah, it's funny because when he comes at him at first, he's like, Janos doesn't know what to say, and he like kind of freezes up, but Bowen kind of comes to his rescue because Bowen had backed out to support Janos, and he's like, who would be better to lead us than the Black Cloaks and the man who led the gold? And Stannis is like, anyone would be better, even the cook.
Even the cook.
Because three-fingered hops there, right, getting 5 votes.
Yeah.
Yep, so he just shits on like how he made his bones, and then Maester Aemon's like, hey, all right, enough of the...
Well, he even calls him out. He's like, even more than that, he's like, 2 dudes that were going to whistleblow died.
Well, whistleblow on what, too?
It got worse, for sure.
On him taking pay.
Well, he says everyone's taking a bribe. He's not the first gold cloak to take a bribe, but he might be the only commander to sell promotions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you pay me your quarter of your salary, you'll be captain.
Yes, it seemed like basically what he was doing was like, hey, if you want to get $100 raise, 50 of it's going to me. Because that's what Stannis says. Like, you probably have half of them on your payroll. And then, yeah, exactly. Like Kyle said, 2 of them were going to spill the beans on this, and they died before they could testify.
Yeah, so Maester Aemon's like, hey, and once you take the oath, once you swear the vows, you're forgiven of your past crime. So, like, we can't hold that against him.
Also, name drop about when he was doing all that shit, though. He says that Jon Arryn was actually the one that brought it to the council.
True.
And that it was Littlefinger that was paying him, which, I mean, we kind of knew. But, I mean, like, we get kind of a little bit of that web.
And that Robert didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I feel like I think this is a lot of times, like, I feel like I would have the Robert point of view here, and clearly it's not the right point of view to have. Like, whatever. Like, we know he's a scumbag. They're all scumbags. Like, I feel like it's my view on politicians. It's like,
why do they all have to be scumbags, though?
It's just kind of how it is.
It's like, not how it is.
The system we have, it's how it is.
It's either coached or allowed, Nelson. You know that better than most.
There you go, Jeff. I agree wholeheartedly.
In politics, what is it?
And people are just shitty, man. Like, people shouldn't be so shitty. Life would be better if people weren't as shitty.
Find better people.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice.
Don't let the corrupt find a Batman. Don't let the corruption get him.
Yeah. Okay, back to the chapter. So Janos was about to say something back, but yeah, like you guys said, Aemon's like, no, like his crimes are done. Like he might suck.
That goes away once you take the black.
Yeah, but that applies to all of us.
And he's like, yeah, so what? I mean, he's like, I know, but like, I'll deal with it if it's Janos, but
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here. It shouldn't be him.
It just got to be somebody.
I'll bite my tongue, but just make a fucking decision.
Anybody.
Yep. All right, so...
Well, he says, we have a war to fight.
Yeah, Stannis says we have a war to fight, and Dennis is like, are you talking about the wildlings? And he's like...
Because I think we won that one, is what I think he was about to say.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, like... So Stannis says, that's not what I'm talking about. Like,
I don't know why he couldn't say it here, because obviously most of these men at least heard of what happened at the First Men, or were there.
Yeah, and they know what the watch is for, right? Like, that's the whole point of the Night's Watch. It's not just the wildlings.
100% agree, but are you guys agreeing with me that it seems like if I'm most of these guys, I'm probably thinking that Stannis is talking about the wars to the south.
Well, that's what the first guy says, right? He's like, hey, like, we can't take up arms against the realm. We're just here to protect the realm. Like, we're not... And he's like, no, I'm not... I'll never make you... And it does to the point, like, even what Stannis says next is like, I'm not going to make you take up arms against the countrymen, which kind of makes it seem like, all right, you're going to help me get to the countrymen, but you just stand and watch while I fight.
Yeah, it's like, you're going to give me castles. You're never going to lift a sword, but you're going to give me all your shit, and I'm going to use that to do my thing. But again, he doesn't say like what the thing is, north or south. When it seems like his focus is north,
with some implications that it might be south here. Like I just said.
I mean, the fact that he doesn't say it is to me what the only thing that
the guy says, "Wait, we can fight the countrymen." He's like, "Well, I'm not going to make you do that." Kind of makes this thing like you're going to come along and maybe like cut trees and shit for me.
I didn't see it as come along. No, he made it sound like they're going to stay on the wall. And they're going to stay in the 3 castles they already have.
Once he starts laying out the gift and the castles and whatnot.
Okay, deeper down. Okay, I got you. At the beginning, you're saying. Okay, I got you.
But yeah. So I guess the next one is he wants all the ungarrisoned castles, right? So everything but Castle Black, Eastwatch by the Sea, and the Shadow Tower. He wants to take for his men, and then he also wants the gift. And he's like, well, I'll use it better than the way you're using it now, which is they're not using it.
I mean, yeah, which was set up a couple chapters ago, right?
Yeah,
it's like the whole brand. I think they were talking about it and stuff. That was
So in there, like once he basically says, "I'm taking all your castles," they all start grumbling, and when they settle down, he's like, "I have 3 times your number and could take it if I won." So he threatens them. He should have said, "I have 3 times as many men as you do."
Yeah, I could just fucking take it.
Yeah, because we know how many men the Night's Watch have to the number now because of the last chapter, 588, I think it is, right? So Stannis has 3 times that. Let's take it close to 1600 because of the 88.
That's awful.
It's not great, but I mean, he has. It's good to. I think it's always good to know the numbers.
Maybe he's going to recruit some more here soon.
Well, he's going to have to, yeah.
The other interesting thing is when he says, I don't want you guys to fight the rebels. I just want you guys to do what you've always done and defend the wall. And Cutter Pike's like, we'll defend the wall to the last man as we always have. And Dolores Head's like, yeah, that's probably going to be me.
Probably going to be me. It was a great line.
My luck. I'll be the fucking last one left.
I knew you were going to love that line too, Nelson. Every line of Dolores Head that'll be said in the future we'll mention in the podcast.
Yeah, I love it. She's just like, he's just like the guy who should not be in this meeting. He's like one of John's friends. He's a slap ass. He's like getting votes because Pip's joking. You know what I mean? He's he's with the king.
It's very funny. I mean, they should have looked at him like, oh, you got 5 votes. Like, fuck off. Like, we're not even wasting my time with you.
I think he only had 2.
Yeah,
I think he had max. 2, and then he got 3 more the next vote.
No, I think Hobb kept getting 5. Dolores had 1, and then he got 2 in the last vote.
Okay, yeah. I knew it increased in the last one, but
yeah,
that's too funny.
So the other deal that they're going to do is burn night fires. Nels, can you shed light on what a night fire is? Is that them praying to the red fire god?
Yeah, and Melisandre's preaching. She goes down to the night fires and prayers like, thank you for your fire to keep the darkness at bay.
Because obviously they have fires somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's freezing cold. And
basically they hold bonfires throughout the night.
It's more of a ritual type
thing. I mean, yeah,
I'd be
all right with them holding a bonfire, right?
It's like they're like, yo, it's gonna get cold as fuck here anyway. So we can take some couple fires.
Well, and it's supposed to help against the enemy. Right? Yeah, they're gonna use the fire to keep them away.
Exactly.
It sounds like.
Yep. So Mel also speaks up about the real war. And this is where I think we get to the point of we're definitely focused on what's north of the wall and coming down. Right. This is why he's here.
Yeah.
Well, and then Maester Aemon, the old guy, he's the one that kind of knows who she is, right? Or at least what she represents. That's where this goes.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, is this the War of the Dawn that you speak of, my lady? Where's the prince that was promised? Like, so he already knows this prophecy. Like, he knows something about this religion.
I think this is one of the most interesting parts of the chapter for sure, is when Aemon basically calls Melisandre. Like, it's one of the things where, like, she's been preaching all this shit to who people have no idea what she's saying, and they're just, like, buying in. Aemon's like,
I know.
Yeah, this is important stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a religious person, but, like, I imagine someone that quotes the Bible a lot, when they get around somebody else who, like, quotes the Bible a lot, they get a little nervous, right? Because, like, if you misquote the Bible around someone who does, like, around most people, they're not going to be able to call you on your bullshit. But if you're around somebody else who knows their shit, like, no, that's actually...
For sure.
That's actually John 25:43, not 13:12, or you know what I mean? So... I feel like he's kind of checking her a little bit. Like, yo, I know. They
always have Bible quoting competitions wherever Nelson's hanging out.
I don't know the Bible. I can see that being a thing.
You're talking about like one story versus like all of the stories of a book. Like that's...
Even me, when I'm talking about Game of Thrones at work, too, I know everyone who doesn't know anything about Game of Thrones. I'll throw a name out there really confidently, even if I don't know.
Old McCandy Sharandy. He's a really good one.
Exactly.
Do you remember him, Kyle?
Who?
Old McCandy Sharandy from the first book.
Old Man Cameron Sharandy?
Old McCandy.
Olmick? No.
There was a guy in college who used to make up, like, he was doing like a paper on sports athletes or something like that, and he makes up this athlete Okan Candy Sharandy, and he just talks about him like for this entire like, yeah, when he got sponsored by Nike, he had this much revenue, blah blah blah, and he just did like an entire presentation on a fake person, just to see if anybody would check him on it. And
it's also great, like if like you talk like someone wants to like really grind you with like a sports team, like, oh, you're that big of a fan, like how about when old McCandy Sharandy was like your best player, and you're like, I wasn't a fan back then. And you're like, yeah, well, he didn't fucking play. So.
Or some people will pretend to know, right? That's when you know.
Yeah, right. That's when it gets funny. It's like, oh yeah. So who's the princess promised? It's Stannis. What about the sword, right? What about she brings up Lightbringer, which we don't really inspect the sword till later.
So real quick, hold on. I want to read the quote that Kyle brought up. When Aemon says, "Is it the War of the Dawn you speak of, my lady? But where is the prince that was promised?" And she says, "He stands before you, though you do not have the eyes to see. Stannis Baratheon is Azor Ahai come again, the warrior of fire. In him the prophecies are fulfilled. The red comet blazed across the sky to herald his coming, and he bears Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes." So this is interesting. I think even the fans are interested in this quote because I think it's a connection between these two different things, Azor Ahai and the prince that were promised, which sounds similar, but we've heard each of them a few different times, but never oh, it's the same thing. And here Melisandre, when Aemon's like, "Where's the prince that was promised?" She's like, "Oh, that's Stannis. He is the prince that was promised, and Azor Ahai."
But I thought the whole Azor Ahai story was like how he had to kill his wife and all that, right? Like that was him. And
she says Azor Ahai come again. It's like the second coming, I think, is the idea.
It seemed. I know. I guess what I'm saying is it seemed like the two were the same to me. So I'm sorry if that spoils whatever you were saying.
I don't know.
But
I think
it already seemed apparent to me.
No, so let me try to simplify it. Azor Ahai kind of won the first war against the others. Right.
Well, the Azor Ahai is the thing that we heard of. He forged Lightbringer, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But was Lightbringer used to defeat the others the first time?
I don't know if we know. It's we hear different things.
What else would it have been for?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, to beat the last other in the long night. It's just weird because I think most of what Mel I guess she has been talking about both. I'm not sure. But yeah, I guess, I don't know.
Is it just implied that they're the same thing, or maybe it's two prophecies that people have been like, "Oh, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. Let's combine."
Well,
them.
I'm pretty sure from the fandom, this is the only line where they're ever directly connected.
Who else talks about the Prince's Promise? Who else talks about Azor Ahai?
The one time that I know off the top of I think Melisandre has talked about both independently before.
Yeah.
Other than Mel, who else?
I've definitely heard them both.
The only time I remember that we've heard about the Prince that was promised is when Dany's in the House of the Undying. She sees a vision of who she assumes is Rhaegar with a woman who's holding a baby, and Rhaegar's playing his harp, and she asks him if he's going to make a song for the baby, and he says he already has a song. His is a song of ice and fire, and he is the prince who was promised. So Rhaegar thought that his son, who the mountain killed, was the prince that was promised.
Yeah. So we don't know. It's not like everyone going around the streets like, "Oh, Prince is promised." It's a well-known deal right now, or at least talked about a whole lot.
Just thinking about that vision, I think that's really interesting, right? If you think about Rhaegar, because Rhaegar was alive. Aemon's been around for 100 years, right? So Rhaegar died about 16, 17 years ago, right? I think that's when Robert's Rebellion ended. So they were alive at the same time. Aemon went up to the wall about halfway through his life, maybe a little bit before that. But like, I guess actually he probably was at the wall for Rhaegar's entire life. But Rhaegar might have gone to see him. They might have talked. So it's interesting too. Like maybe Aemon knows about this because Rhaegar, if Dany's vision is true, knew about it, right? So
yeah.
The other weird thing we've heard about Rhaegar that isn't directly related to it, that people think might be related, is there's a part I think Barristan tells Dany that like she was like, oh, he must have won a lot of tournaments. And she's like, and Barristan's like, well, for the most part, he liked playing his heart more. There was a time like when he showed up in the yard with a sword in his hand and basically said that he had read something in a book that said, I read something and it made me think I need to be a warrior or something along those lines, right? I need to know how to fight. People think he might have been reading about, maybe he thought he was the prince that was promised. And then later in Dany's vision, then he's like, oh, it's not me, it's actually my son. And then they both end up dead. So, you know what I mean? Now Stannis is thinking it's him.
This is some crazy stretching, in my opinion.
Well, it's one of the things that we don't know. There's a lot of still speculation on the fandom on. I think it's enough that I can just throw a lot of the points that we've heard.
I think, and here, I mean, I guess maybe this is my first, I don't want to say prediction, but like, I think the whole thing, and we're getting to it, of Aemon and Sam and the sword, but like, I think even Melisandre's kind of lying about it here. Like, I don't think she's sure that it's him.
I will say one of the things that I think George is like a big theme for George throughout is prophecies are really cool and sometimes they're true or whatever. But what's way more important is how people learning about prophecies affect their actions, right? Or what people believe, how that affects their actions, whether it's true or not, right? Like, and going back to all the shit I just talked about, Rhaegar might have made a bunch of changes in his life because he thought he was this figure. Then he might have made a bunch of changes because he thought his son was this figure. It all turned out to be kaput, right? So now, and Stannis is doing all this shit because he thinks he's this figure, and then who the fuck knows, right? So it's more about what people like, how it impacts their choices,
the impact on the realm.
Yeah, exactly. So
all right, moving on.
Yep.
So everyone get out. Aemon and Sam, you guys stay. And Stannis starts asking Sam about how he killed the other. Sam never really takes credit for this kill at all. It's always the dragon glass. And we get a quick little Stannis talking about his daddy, Randall Tarly.
He loves fucking doing this. He did this to Jon last chapter too, where he's like, not my friend, but I knew him. Like, now here he is.
I have respect for him. He's a good soldier. He's good on the battlefield. But I don't like him. I don't care for him.
Does he say he doesn't like Randall? It's almost worse if he says he doesn't.
No, he's like, he defeated my brother once at Ashford.
Yeah, it's almost just straight respect, which is worse in Sam's case.
Mace claimed it, but
his dad
Randall
sucks.
did most of the work.
Yep.
He slew Catherine with the great Valerian sword of his and sent his head to Ares. You're not the sort of son I would expect him to have. And he's like, I'm not the son that he wanted either. Like, that's why I'm here, dude.
Yep.
I don't understand Stannis' next point that Sam would make a good hostage.
Because Randall is a Lannister person. He wouldn't make a good hostage because
Randall would be like, cut that pig's head off. I don't want him.
Well, that's what he's saying, I think.
Stannis doesn't understand that, though. He just thinks that...
Yeah.
He just told him I am not the sort of son he wanted. So why would he care?
It doesn't necessarily mean that he
Use some
wouldn't
context
care.
clues, Stannis.
These are that's one sentence,
worst.
man.
He's maybe
That's
the
one.
worst.
It could also go the whole Tyrion Tywin way. Tyrion got captured and Tywin went to war, right? It's a slight on the
He
family.
just needed an excuse.
Okay, but it's a slight on the family. It could have been.
Grow up.
It could be that too.
Grow up, Nelson. All right, let's talk about the dragon glass. They call it frozen fire. It's the first I think we hear it. They call it that.
Yeah.
Stannis also calls out that he knows who Aemon is as a Targaryen.
Yeah,
which is.
Sweet. We knew. We knew that in
Robert was all about kill every single Targaryen I can get my hands on. I think that's a direct Robert quote. Robert is Stannis is his brother. Not quite the animosity, and he knows that he's like, what's he gonna do? He's not gonna have the kids.
Oh, you hear about the blind Targaryen that's been on the wall for 80 years.
The Maester.
I think we can let that guy go. The one who willingly chose to strip the name.
I mean, if anybody wouldn't, though, it'd be Stannis.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, obsidian dagger. Frozen fire. Was there another word for it?
They just say that they say it in High Valyrian, but we don't get what that was.
What do they call it? Dragon glass?
Yes. I think she laughs at dragon glass and then calls it frozen fire.
Yeah. Obsidian, dragon glass, and frozen fire. All pretty dope names. And Stannis kind of... Good?
I was gonna say, he's like, we got a mine of that shit. Like, he's like, I got more.
We got a mountain of that.
Yeah, like hell yeah, like we're gonna get some more of that.
Yep, I've already sent word to start mining this shit. Roland Storm. This is one of Davos's men, like really close Kingsmen, high up in the Kingsman order. He's left in charge.
Roland Thorn.
Roland Storm, bastard name from the Stormlands.
Okay, cool.
Yep, and there's so much of it. I thought this was cool enough, so I didn't realize most of it's black, but some of it green and some red and purple.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm sure it's probably how it is in real life too. Like this is a real thing in real life, right? This material.
Obsidian is a real thing. Yes.
Yeah, it's like glassy.
Yeah, there's a guy on TikTok that'll like make prehistoric weapons.
Oh yeah, primitive tools where they got the leather and they're like,
and it's snapping away, and then deer antler in that thing.
Dude, sometimes you just go down rabbit holes on YouTube.
Satisfying.
You can literally lose hours to watching somebody chip fucking stones. I literally lost an hour and a half today watching a dude with ant farms on YouTube. It's dangerous, man.
Oh,
YouTube's a
was it
dangerous
Ants
spot.
Canada?
Well, that's just stupid. Like that can't save your life. If you fell in Alaska and you like found a rock of obsidian, at least you had a chance. Like, what are you gonna do? Mine an ant farm and live
Ants
off
Canada
of that?
is cool, man.
I understand why Kyle does his bees thing now. Ants are crazy. The whole hive, like they just don't think as like individuals. It's like
it's weird.
The whole thing matters more. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I meant by like when they swarm, right? Like they don't. One bee doesn't matter. It's the colony that matters. That's the point I'm saying. Anyway, you
bee
get
matters
it now.
to me. The last one that stung me messed up my hand pretty good.
I got stung today twice by two yellow jackets, or a yellow jacket twice. My ankle is on fire and throbbing right now, but it's cool.
Yeah, I hate bugs in real life, but watching YouTube videos about them is pretty cool.
I'll get you an ant farm for your next birthday. All right, so then they kind of talk about like
we said it didn't work on the zombie, but it worked on the other, right?
Did it shatter? He said it shattered.
He tried to stab Small Paw, and Small Paw had chainmail on, so it shattered against chainmail.
Okay, gotcha.
Small Paw when Small Paw had come back as right.
Yeah. Yep. So Mel says that killing the whites is going to be a little bit different. We should just be able to kill them with some fire.
They are animated by necromancy. She straight up says necromancy, right?
She does.
Necromancy animates these whites, yet they are still only dead flesh. Steel and fire will serve for them. The ones you call the others are something more. Yeah. And that's the ones that get the dragon glass.
Demons made of snow and ice and cold.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a lot of info in this chapter. Like, I don't know if you can take it to the bank if it's coming from Mel.
I was gonna say that's the problem, Nelson. Yeah, she is so fucking hyperbolic and like just out there.
Where else are we gonna get better info?
We talked about this before, right? With like the two of them, like the conversations.
How do we know her info is worth it? She's just talking. She's just starting. She's just telling stories.
That's what Kyle's
telling legends. So why do you believe it?
I'm just saying, where are we going to get better info?
The real problem is that so far she's the one that's talking the realist, Jeff. Right? Like everything.
She's just saying it with belief.
But what she's saying is really happening. Everybody else is just kind of doing bullshit down south.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's weird, right? Like I hate her. I hate what she's saying. She's crazy. I don't believe a word of what she says, but what she says kind of seems real.
Well, it seems like this is a red priest thing, right? Like they're gearing up for the long war. No one else's gods care about this long fight against the dark, cold dead, other than this god, it seems, to this point, right?
True.
We haven't heard shit about the new gods. We haven't heard shit about the old gods having the beef. It's just this priest. So I don't know. Thor Samir maybe was too drunk when they had the lesson on the long night that they had to prepare for, and he's not preaching it like that. But I'm gonna say maybe it's just more. I'm gonna say it's the religion versus anything.
But but I think that's negligent of the old gods and the new gods to not worry about this because this shit's actually happening. We're seeing it happen, right?
Maybe maybe they think it's like a hurricane. Sometimes a hurricane has to come through and
sometimes you get wiped out by these demons of cold.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to hit refresh.
Sure. I do think it is really interesting point by Kyle that if anybody would care about that, you'd think it'd be the new god or the old gods.
I'll say one more thing is that she had the vision of Stannis, right? So maybe she's just really like she knows of this prophecy, then she sees a vision in the flame, quote unquote, and now she's really running with that. It's this, and she knows all the details. So,
well, for sure,
saying, prophecy affecting her actions.
She's riding it to the top, right? Like, and that's where we're getting a little bit of Aemon pushing back on her. At least that's how I'm seeing what's happening in this chapter, right? Like, so let's keep going because they get to the point where he's. Is this where he says, "Oh, we didn't get to see the sword yet"?
Not yet. Like, so one last thing they talk about is about the Night's
the
Fort.
Black Gate.
Yep, and this gate to go back and forth, and
he's like, "Yeah, I'll show it to you," but it doesn't really get to the point of like
you being able to.
I don't know that you can get through it.
This brought me to this. I think this is a crazy plot hole. This makes a ton of sense that Stannis wants to go see this gate. I think it's a crazy plot hole that no one else is like Sam. Like the second Sam gets back, Bowen Marsh, somebody should be like Othel Yarwick, Lord Beelder. Like, okay, we're me and you. Let's get. I'm sorry, Sam. I know you want to take a nap. We're going back right now. What the fuck are you talking about? There's a secret gate anyway.
Wait, you
just
don't
come
think
through the wall.
most people know about this?
No. I think this gate's secret.
Did Corin know? Like, would Corin have know about it? Like a really experienced.
You don't think Aemon knows about
Benjen?
it?
Like Benjen, Corin type people, maybe.
There's got to be writing about it. There's got to be.
Well, the only reason I think that is because the guy who deserted in the prologue chapter somehow got south of the wall, seemingly without going through Castle Black, because when Benjen asked Ned about it, right? So
he snuck through somewhere.
People have wondered, where did that guy come through? The thought is maybe he knew.
Like it's a good thing, like, hey, you're a brother, like, yo, if you ever get trapped on that side, like, hey, don't forget about this little tool we got here.
But it's not like they tell him on initiation day. Like, Jon doesn't know about this.
Sam didn't know about it.
Maybe they only tell the Rangers that actually go across.
That's a fair point, because Jon isn't a Ranger.
I'm just full of fair points tonight. Shooting them from the hip.
Always. You're a talent.
True. You said it, not me. All right, let me see this. Let me see this sword. I want to check it out. Well, you can't see it.
Stannis wants to take up the Night Fort as his home base when this is all said and done.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It doesn't really say why he wants to, but
well, I mean, that's where we're getting to, right? He gets to the end. He says
he just wants to be able to walk back and forth.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, I guess that's maybe the only tunnel.
Well, he says no.
Okay, why he wants the tunnel? Okay, I thought you were talking about the sword.
Why he wants the Night Fort? He says it's the largest and oldest.
Is that but it's the only other working tunnel, right? Other than the 3 castles that they're manning, it's the only way he can get north.
Well, that's fair. The Black Gate might be the only other tunnel.
I told you.
But the tunnel, I'm saying the gate, the actual tunnel, is sealed shut like all the rest.
Right. So if he does want to get on the other side, he needs the Black Gate.
Yeah.
And the Black Gate's pretty sweet because it's a secret.
And it's a tree that opens its mouth.
And talks. Yeah.
All right. So let me see the sword. He's like, well, you can't even see it. He was like, well, Sam will see for me. And shring.
Yeah, a blind man wants to see Lightbringer. Why not? Everybody else has seen it. Read the quote, Jeff.
Steel scraped against wood and leather, and radiance filled the solar. Shimmering, shifting, a dance of gold and orange and red light, all the bright colors of fire. Tell me, Samwell. Maester Aemon touched his arm.
It glows,
said Sam in a hushed voice.
As if it were on fire. There are no flames, but the steel is yellow and red and orange, all flashing and glimmering, like sunshine on water, but prettier. I wish you could see it, Maester.
I see it now, Sam. A sword full of sunlight. So lovely to behold. The old man bowed stiffly. Your Grace, my lady, this is most kind of you.
So pretty much he's checking him, right? Like, I think that's what's happening here, is because he even, like, when he sounded a little skeptical when he was like, the prince that was promised, and she's like, yeah, he's right in front of you. And I don't know, I didn't get the vibe that Aemon was believing that either.
I think he's definitely, I think the biggest part is like, oh, okay, like, the next part, just him and Sam, like, you didn't feel
yeah, he's
heat,
like, it didn't, there's no heat, right? Like, he's like, yeah, so it's not on fire. And he's like, the scabbard, not all scorched, huh? He's like, yeah.
Right now, I don't think it's clear that he's suspicious, but yeah, later when he does the conversation.
But again, like, what is, like, where is he pulling
right
this, like, oh, it should actually be a hot sword, not just look hot, and should, so that's got to be off of legend too, that the sword was actually a heat source type of thing.
Yeah, where does he know this from? Exactly. What book, and where can I get my hands on it?
Yeah.
Fire and ice, probably.
Yeah.
All right, so they had that conversation. It didn't bring heat. It didn't burn the sheath. Or the scabbard.
Oh, well, Stannis says before he dismisses them, tell them you're picking people tonight or you're going to wish that you had. He also told Jon at the end of the last Jon chapter, the Night's Watch are going to remember that I'm not a patient man. We find out later that,
So, we got to choose tonight. Like, we got to stop it from being Janos Maester. And he's like, hey, I'm a Maester. I'm just here to counsel the actual Lord Commander. I can't show any favor.
But he is like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I can't do anything about it.
He's like, I agree, but I can't do anything about it. I'm the Maester. I'm impartial.
So Aemon comes back to his chamber. He sits down. I hate being so old. I miss the sun. I miss books most of all. So kind of along he thinks something is sus, like he isn't quite believing whatever Mel is spewing. I think there's a book that he could read. I think that's why he misses books right now. Is because like Like it's like me. Like, oh, I just want to Google it. I just want to Google it,
Yeah.
but he can't because he's blind.
for
right?
sure.
So, yeah.
I would agree. All right, so Sam has the light bulb moment that, okay, Maester Aemon can't, but I'm no Maester, so I'll be the one. I'll be the guy that steps up, which...
Is it a Sam light bulb moment, or is it a Aemon wink wink moment? It's kind of close.
Could I do something? Yes, Sam. Yes, you could.
They both actions occurred. He winked, and the light bulb went off.
I will say, it's weird that Aemon has, up to this point, has seemed very, like, I will take no part. I will take no part. And then here he's like, Sam, come on. It seems like very obvious that he's trying to play a subtle part by getting Sam to do something. Also interesting, at the end of the last Sam chapter, Pip and Gren are like, Sam, you can do this. You're the Lord's son. You're the Sam the Slayer. You can do it. And he's like, no, I'm a coward. No, I'm a coward. They're like hyping him up. Here, all Aemon says is, I don't know, can you? And he's like, I can do this. Like, I don't know why now.
It's like when the teacher asks if I can I go to the bathroom? It's like, oh,
I think it was all building, yeah.
The meeting
like,
made
of
it
course
urgent.
Of course you can go to the bathroom, Sam. Go to the bathroom and get this vote swung. Go whip the vote.
Yeah, I guess the meeting made it urgent.
Yeah. All right, so Sam is working up his courage, and he decides to go to Cotter Pike first because he's the scarier of the two. So while he has the courage, let me go talk to this guy who Nelson described him as a bastard from the Iron Islands.
Yep.
Who was a raper and a thief at a young age till he got sent to the wall. We learned that as we go through, I think. So
yeah, I think Dennis might say that later. Yeah, when he's talking shit on him. Yeah, so again, Cotter Pike and Dennis Mallister hate each other. Cotter Pike is Eastwatch. Mallister is Shadow Tower.
Yep. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nelson, the Pikes would, or the Ironmen would have been feasting on the Mallister home, right?
Yeah, they're like the closest castle on the inland. So yeah, they would fight a lot. Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so I don't know how much you want to get into this. It's like, hey, can you vote for Mallister? He's a really good guy. He's been here for a while.
I love Pike. He's like very blunt, stern. He makes fun of
Well,
Sam
he's like, I'm
time.
battle hardened. Comes out, he's like, I'm battle hardened. I'm the expert. Like, these tough times need me. Stannis is up here. He's gonna be pushing everybody over. We can't be dealing with that, right?
Yeah, but he even asked Sam, like, hey, like, he's just making fun of Sam, too. He's like, you sure you killed an other, not a snow knight, Sam Slayer? Like, you killed Sam, just a snowman in the woods? Like,
yeah, he's a dick.
Sam also leans into this, like, Pike asks him, he's like, oh, Aemon sent you. You must have just come from Aemon. And Sam's like, oh, yeah, I was just with Aemon. I was just there a minute or two ago.
To make it seem like it's good counsel from the old Maester, not just Sam.
Yeah, he doesn't say Aemon sent me to on his behalf, but he very much like...
Yeah, he definitely starts leaning into this, using Aemon as leverage.
Yeah, Aemon's every bullet in his gun from...
Yes, because he does know both of them.
Yeah.
Yep, so we don't need an old man, we need a fighter. I think it's really funny that both guys kind of repeat that. I don't want the job. I never wanted this honor, but if I have to be the best choice, like, I'll take it. It just can't. Mallister can't have it.
Yeah, exactly. Neither of them they just kind of, they seem both to want the best for the watch. Seem like, honestly, like two good guys at the end of the day, both of them. Very different, but good guys.
And they're just like, we got to do it because nobody else will and nobody else can. So I have to.
Yep.
They feel duty bound.
It's just very funny that the qualities that in hindsight, the qualities that they have that they think makes them worthy are also qualities that Jon has, right? And like the qualities that they don't think the other person like is worthy for, like Jon is the opposite in. So like
Jon's the Venn diagram.
That's kind of like how it seems like Sam comes back with the second option on both of these guys, right?
For sure.
Yeah, but he doesn't give it to Cotter Pike this first time, right?
Yeah, he didn't think of it on his way out of here.
He didn't think of Jon yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And it's interesting too, like even some of the things that they don't like, right? Like, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but like Mallister doesn't like that Pike is a bastard.
Yeah. Jon's got a little bit of that.
Jon's a bastard too, but he's like half highborn. So it's like Jon's kind of like the compromise, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so he
ground.
does say like, what if there was someone else, Cotter? Like, what if you had a chance to like vote for someone that? And he's like, oh well. And he goes through the list of them else. If you have it there, you want to say kind of why he says no to each of them.
Well, so what are Cotter's problems with Mallister? I guess
he's old.
He's old and he's not a fighter. Like he just sits in his tower. Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, he can't stand up to the red woman.
Talk about everybody else. Why is he saying no to everybody else? Bowen Marsh, the man, Count Spoon, Othel's a follower, does what he's told and does it well, but no more than that Slint, well, his men like him, I'll grant you, and it would almost be worth it to stick him down the royal crawl and see if Stannis gagged. But no, there's too much of King's Landing in that one. A toad grows wings and thinks he's a bloody dragon.
Yep.
Who does that leave? Hob. We could pick him, I suppose. Only then, who's going to boil your mutton, Slayer? You look like a man who likes his bloody mutton.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, that didn't fucking work. Let me go on to the next guy.
Yep. Do you think so? I have more luck with Dennis because Dennis is a little more proper.
As a highborn, we've been brought up from the same school.
Yeah, Dennis is a nice dude.
Yep. Old man. Nice old man.
All right, so he goes over with Dennis Mouster, and same kind of thing, right? He's like, oh, did Aemon Aemon sent you to counsel me? Great. And Sam's like, well, he's the maester. He really can't do that. But they drink some wine together. And this is kind of the difference, right? Malister's like, well, Pike, fine, he can fight and whatnot, but he doesn't have the training and the pleasantries that I've gone through and was kind of born with, and the know how to meet and treat with the lords and the kings.
You heard him in there earlier, being an asshole in front of the king. Like,
you
can't be doing that shit.
Asked him about wiping asses and stuff. He's like, plus, he can't even read. His maester has to read and write all his letters for him. Like, we can't have that as a Lord Commander.
And he used to steal and rape from us all the time. So, no, can't be him. I was brought up the right way. I'm the right guy. But I don't want it. If the right guy steps up, I'll give it to him. And
he said, I've done it before. I did it twice before for the guy before Mormont when the election for him was held, and for Mormont. I stepped aside for both, thinking just like they're better. I don't care enough.
Yeah, cool. I'm not the best guy for the job. I'll endorse you.
Sam's ready this time. So he asked about Bowen and them. He's like, yeah, they're not ready. Bowen, Othel, Janos, Slint, none of them, they're up for it. Like, Janos isn't a real highborn. Like, they kind of treat him like a highborn, but he's a butcher's son, up jumped. And Sam's ready this time. He's like, all right, what about another man? And he's like, Gior liked him, Donald Noy liked him, and Halfhand, they all liked him. He might not be as highborn as you are, sir, but he comes from good blood, and he's castle born and raised. He learned his arms from a knight and his letters from a maester. His father was his lord and his brother was a king. And he doesn't even have to say the name. Dennis is like, interesting.
Maybe.
I'd be better, but maybe.
He's very young, but mayhaps.
He is very young. Let's not fool around here now.
I've said this before.
Like 14.
Yeah. 15 now, mate, probably.
But I mean, we had a king. His brother was a king at 15.
Yep, true.
Yeah. All right. So he walks out, and then he comes back.
Well, hold on. No,
does he walk out? He walks out, right?
No, I think he goes to Pike, back to Pike, is what you're saying.
I think he goes. He comes back into Malister with another lie.
No.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because he doesn't walk out though. Dennis says, I would be better though. He's like, he might serve, but I'd be better. And Sam's like, there could be honor in a lie. And he's like, oh yeah, you would be better. But after Stannis sent everybody away, Aemon told us that if we don't choose tonight, he's gonna actually pick Cotter Pike.
Stannis told him.
Yeah, Stannis told Aemon and I. Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Aemon told us.
Sorry. When he said everybody else, Stannis told me and Aemon. Yeah, exactly. I think this doesn't make sense because Sam comes here being like, yo, you got to choose Cotter Pike.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we even have this argument if the end result is Stannis forces Cotter Pike on us? Like,
I think it's just a big enough threat, and like they have that much kind of hate for that person that.
But you know what I mean? You would lead with that. You wouldn't start by trying to convince him to get caught to vote. Just vote. I'm not
gonna poke too much holes in it. Like you're right. Like, well,
I just thought it was a little weird. Sure. And it's I don't think it's necessarily a plot hole book wise. I think Denny's should have thought about that. Right, Denny's should just being dumb and he didn't think about it in the moment, I guess.
Can you say his name one more time?
Denny's Malister?
Not Dennis.
It's how do you spell Denny's?
It's
the restaurant?
Dennis.
Isn't
Come
this
on, grow up. They take all of the real names in the world and they're changing the spelling.
How do you spell Denny's?
It's not
the restaurant.
Denny's. It's Dennis
with 2 N's. Denny's with 2 N's.
This is Denny's.
Yes, in America, we're in Westeros.
You said Dennis so many times tonight, Nelson.
I'm saying Dennis.
You're saying like Denise.
Denny's.
You did. You said Denny's a few times
Dennis.
now. You've been saying Dennis all night, and then
I'm just gonna call him Malister.
All right, so he goes back to Cotter Pike with the same lie, but obviously flipped, and that's it, right? That's how it ends.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, thoughts?
I mean, I think this
hold on. One thing in here, Malister kind of talks some shit on Sam. He's like, "I beat your grandparents in a tourney." Did he say? Did we hear this before? He's like, "I beat both your grandfathers in a tourney." Interesting, because one of Sam's grandfathers is Lord Alistair.
Is a Lord Alistair?
Lord Alistair Florent.
Oh, the guy that was
in the dungeon.
What dungeon?
The dungeon back on Dragonstone with Davos. Last we heard.
All right. So, Kyle, thoughts on where we're going?
I mean, what I was gonna say is this is a great way for Jon to not have to deal with Stannis, right? Like, he doesn't need to be lorded here. I think he still does the very honorable thing. Like, I think this is an out for him. I think it's a way to him not get killed, right? So I think I hope Jon gets it. He's been set up for this for a while. That was like the whole point of the Mormont squireship or whatever. And
yeah, I think it's cool too. Definitely seems like a potential way out for Jon. Jon seems to be in a pretty big dilemma too. Seems like a potential way out.
We need a win by the end of the book.
I will say we did the math last time. Cotter Pike and Dennis Mouser together do not have enough to
2/3
split the vote. It was close though. I think they only needed like 17, and Jon has enough friends to probably cover that.
Well, not even that. It's like if you're 17 away and Stannis comes in and he's like, "You fuckers need to pick somebody." Like he's gonna say I'll kill 8 of you or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's not gonna happen. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Cool.
All right.
Last thing I just want to talk about is Sam kind of is changing.
Yeah, he's
right. Like at the end, he has this moment where he's like, when he's gonna go back to Cotter, he's like, he leaves Malister and he's like, I'm a little scared. And he's like,
what the fuck do I have to be scared of? I'm already at the end of the line here. Like, I'm at the wall, man. What are they gonna do? They're not gonna kill me for this shit. There's nowhere to send me.
I've been face to face with Small Paul as a white while getting his face eaten by a raven.
So he's kind of owning some of this stuff finally. Yeah, things that he'd given credit to the dragon glass and stuff prior. I mean, Small Paul no, but yeah. Like still, it's
he still kind of gives a little bit to Gilly though, right? Gilly made him
for sure.
brave.
Well, she gave him a reason.
Yeah.
She deserves credit for sure. Yeah. So
you can only be brave when you're scared. That's a fact.
There you go. All right, any predictions, Kyle? Exactly. Are we gonna do the next one? Decide now. Come on, Kyle, man up.
Do it. We'll be ready in 15
but it's so
minutes.
Late, man.
15 minutes, we'll be ready.
The next chapter is shorter than this one.
Hurry up, then.
All right, Kyle. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next one for Jon 12.
Bye.
Bye.
Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. Thanks for hanging out with us.
See you on the next one for Jon 12. We definitely didn't even say that. See, the ending was so, you guys rushed, and the ending's so fucked up for the last one. We didn't even say
it. Let's just do it right now. All right, Kyle. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next one for Jon 12. There you go. Stop being a little bitch. All right, so hot take. The only real one I have here is that Aemon knows about this prophecy because of the Targaryen line passing, like from previous knowledge of the House of Dragon, like they're passing down.
I think House of Dragons makes this chapter way more interesting with the whole and again, I think a lot of this we talked about in the non-spoiler section, like the prince that was promised equals Azor Ahai. A lot of the evidence for that is in the past, and I like the one big one. I think I said the Rhaegar one. I said in the non-spoiler. One thing I was thinking about in this: who do people think is the prince that was promised?
Jon as Aegon Targaryen.
Okay, hold on. I this never clicked for me. Maybe this is something people have always thought about. Lyanna says to Ned, "Promise me, Ned," about Jon. Jon is literally
so he's already the
and
prince.
He's the prince because he's being born to Rhaegar.
He was the prince that was promised to Ned.
Isn't that kind of crazy? Did people have to know this, right? Like, there's no way I'm figuring this out for the first time. But that's
there's no way. If you are, we need to be. Hit that add button now because
But that kind of ruins everything.
We're the best out here.
About like any theory I've ever had about Jon not being Lyanna's. Like,
well, I already solved who
could that still be true if he's like Ned and Ashara's? Like, no. So like,
no,
that's a bummer. Like, he's definitely Rhaegar's kid, which is just like less fun because Jon's
but I mean that's if you believe
promise
it,
me, Ned. I mean, the promise me, Ned is.
It could be a red herring promise. It's just there to throw you off.
Well, hold on, because the other option is Dany is the what do I say? Sometimes I say that Dany was actually the child of Rhaegar and Lyanna.
There was no gender to the prince. Could be prince or princess.
If Lyanna just promised about the baby, then the question isn't if it's Jon, it's whoever the real baby, Lyanna's baby.
It could still be Dany.
Yeah, so it's whoever Lyanna's baby is. If it's Dany's the princess that was promised because the whole language is gender neutral or whatever, right? So But yeah, I just thought it was really cool that the baby is literally the promised me Ned, and then we call it the prince that was promised.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's cooler that Aemon's calling this out, and I'm just feeding into the House of Dragon that he's calling it out because he knows of this from whatever. Like, if you want to say it's from the Cat's Paw Dagger, that he, like, at one point read it because his dad heated up. Was he ever the heir? He had to be the heir for a second,
There was a great council when they were trying to decide who was up next, and he was up for it, but he said, no, I'm a maester. I can't do it.
So maybe he never was the actual heir, which kind of takes that away. But
I just think it's crazy that, like, Aemon, I never realized, and it sucks. Rereading this chapter made me realize, like, how much it sucks that he dies. That he's not a character that's alive, that's going to be alive and wins a winner.
He just dies on the boat.
Because he knows, and I know you don't know who this is, but some people who listen to this might. He knows Aerys the first Targaryen.
I know who that is.
Dany's dad is Aerys the second, the Mad King. Aerys the first was like a very bookish king, and he like kind of liked prophecies. We don't know very much about him. He's not in Fire and Blood. He's like after that, so he's not like one of the kings that we actually have too much about. We have like 4 pages maybe in the world book, but we know he was bookish and like kind of was into prophecies. Aemon knew him. Aemon also knew our boy Egg, who we know died doing some prophecy-ish shit at Summerhall.
Yeah, trying to wake up the dragons.
Aemon knew Rhaegar, and Aemon knew Bloodraven a lot. Aemon and Bloodraven came to the wall together.
Okay.
Bloodraven became Lord Commander before he went off and got lost beyond the wall.
Never was found again.
Exactly. So Aemon and Bloodraven know each other very well.
Maybe they're still conversating.
So I don't want to get too far ahead, but in the next chapter, there's a raven in the kettle. That's one of the biggest mysteries still to this date. How did this raven get in the kettle? Who was in on it? Bloodraven definitely is doing something warg related to the raven.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a lot of people think Aemon would never...
Maybe Mormont was just a warg and he's actually in the raven. You ever think about that?
The thought is, sure, but that I'm cool with that too. There's a lot of theories for it. I'm cool with everything. The question is, someone at Castle Black helped the raven get in the kettle, and I'm jumping ahead because we're going to talk about this with Kyle. We can't talk about the Blood Raven part though, and we can talk about that next spoiler section. So I'm jumping ahead, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. I just think it's crazy that Aemon knew all those people, clearly knows about the prophecy, which kind of like who else knows about this prophecy? Did they tell him? Did Aemon tell them? How'd they find it? Did Aemon find it in a book at the Citadel? And he's like, yo, Rhaegar, you got to read this book. Rhaegar read the book, and that's when he's like, yo, I got to be... Because a lot of stuff I was saying to Kyle is what people actually think. Like, Rhaegar somehow read about this in a normal book, maybe in the dagger, but the dagger's not a thing in the book, so...
Well, just think about this, Nels. Maybe it's not a thing in the books because the Targaryens are dead, right?
Sure.
So, Rhaegar... The dagger was Robb's, right? Before it became Littlefinger's.
Sure.
So, I'm assuming... to make it that the book or that the dagger does line up is that Robb wins the war, gets this dagger as like a trophy from the Targaryens because he killed Rhaegar. So Rhaegar had it as the heir, and Robb wins it off him. So the story kind of dies because nobody's throwing it in the fire because the Mad King died, Rhaegar died, and now Robb just has this dagger that doesn't know that you need to put it in the fire, nor can you read High Valyrian. So like, it's just kind of like the road ends because no one can read the language.
I think you're just confusing two things. George has said this. There's a difference between show canon and book canon. In the books, there's no evidence that the dagger is anything more than a dagger that was used one time in an assassination attempt. It never comes up again.
Well, there was no proof of that until House of Dragon changed it.
Well, Littlefinger gives it to Bran. Bran gives it to Arya. Arya stabs the Night King with it in the show. Like it was an important dagger.
I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about to this point in history to the House of Dragon.
Sure, okay.
The first time we see it thrown in the fire.
Okay, fair.
I don't care what happens in the show after Robb gets it, is my point. After Robert Baratheon gets the dagger, I don't really care what happens.
Well, I think it's interesting to think about, because George has said that the prophecy, that the fact that Aegon's dream was the Song of Ice and Fire about the prince that was promised, came from Aegon's dream. George has said that's true in the books as well as House of the Dragon. I always assumed that the fact that it's written on the dagger wasn't true because the dagger isn't really nearly as important in the books as it is in the show. But to your point, it could be. Like, they introduced the prophecy in the show.
Yeah.
And George said that's true, so it could also be the dagger part could also be true. I just assumed it wasn't.
I'm just saying that they lost the way to read the prophecy because the Targaryens that knew about it were killed and didn't pass on the knowledge that, hey, this dagger has a powerful meaning.
Yeah, stick it in the fire and learn something from it. Yeah. But I mean, it seems like both Aemon knows about it now. It seems like Rhaegar knew about it at some point if Dany's vision is true. So
Sure.
And some people think maybe it did get passed down heir to king to heir the whole time that way, but I don't know if it really matters, like if that came that way or from a book or from the dagger or whatnot. But that was all I had.
So, all right, I don't have anything else. The only cool thing I had was Aemon knowing about the prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I talked about that. Do you have anything else that I didn't say that you would? Again, yours seem to be more of a dagger is important in the books. I don't think so as much.
It wasn't. I was just arguing with you to argue. My thing was that Aemon knew about it from being a Targaryen, not like he read it in some random ass book. I didn't. I'd rather it be because of a Targaryen connection.
Because of an heir to heir thing, almost.
Or like
or the dagger.
You know, or the dagger,
or some heirloom,
or he's just been like friends with all the people that you mentioned. That like someone was like, "Yo, now that you're a maester, like, hey, I'm the prince. We gotta do this for."
Yeah, now that you're the maester at the wall, like something's coming.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah, you're the guy that's gonna be involved because you're the maester at the wall. You're the line of defense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think this is definitely something I am looking at way more closely after House of the Dragon too, right? Like imagine if House of the Dragon didn't come out and we were rereading this chapter. Like it would be interesting and we'd be talking about it a little bit, but not nearly
like,
this much.
Aemon cares about this prophecy a little bit more than other people.
I mean, it's always been an important quote for the fact that I said Azor Ahai and Prince that were promised are getting tied together.
Yeah.
I do kind of want to look up, like I feel like after we're done reading everything with Kyle, it'll be good to like take a few specific things like Prince that was promised, or if the new books aren't coming out. People speculate Winds is coming out soon.
Yeah, okay.
But if not, we can take some of the biggest like fan theories and kind of just like make like a short podcast on each of those. And doing research on those will be kind of interesting, just to see like just to search and every time Prince that was promised was mentioned and every time Azor Ahai was mentioned and like kind of compare and contrast.
My guess is it's not going to be said a whole lot outside of Mel.
I know, yeah, true. For most of it, for sure. I think in the next two books, Aemon might start spewing some stuff. And I don't remember too.
Once he starts going like old and crazy, right?
I mean, even now. I think now that he's seen
like
Mel
when he's dying and like dreaming, right? Doesn't he like start dreaming like of shit and like?
Well, the next chapters we see is him and Sam get sent away, and when he gets sent away, he leaves a book for Jon, and I think it's kind of cool because I think it's a Sam chapter, and him and Sam leave, and we see him tell Jon, I left a book for you in my room and I marked a page or something like that. I had Clytus mark the page. And then we don't get a Jon chapter till Dance of Dragons. so like, and then in the Dance of Dragons, Aemon tells him this again, and it was a reminder, but it's like, it's a really long tease, I think, in the Sam chapter where it's like, fuck, I wonder what Aemon told Jon. You know what I mean? Like in that book.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some cool stuff like that. Yeah,
cool.
Next Jon chapter, we're about to do it with Kyle if he doesn't pussy out.
We're doing it. He's not. He can't. Tell him we're done. Text him right now that we're done and ready for him.
That's a good one though. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we just can't fuck around. All right, see you guys. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, join the Discord, do the whole thing. We love doing it with you guys every week. Bye.
Bye bye.